this property was $15.5 million. And it came with $82.8 million worth of water rights. Water in Nevada, which is a desert state, is gold. It is liquid gold. Am I going to go ahead and, just curl up in a ball and cry for the rest of my life? Or do I want to show these boys who their dad married? Like, who was that girl? Is she still around? And so, yeah. So you have to dig deep.
I am super blown away with today's person joining us, Felicia. I don't know if you guys know this, but in the industry of distillery, there's only 5 to 10% of women who own and operate these type of businesses. And I got the pleasure to meet one of them who is leading the path. And I just wanted to bring it to you so you can get that spark, that inspiration, the same one I got from her. And I just want to welcome you, Felicia, today. How are you?
I'm great, and thank you for having me. Yeah.
I'm super excited. I mean, Felicia, you have take one of those industry fully male dominated, and you have get involved. You get into the business. You became an owner of distillery. I tried your spirits, and I was blown away. Tell me the story. How did you get to this industry? What inspired you to really be part of the spirits industry?
Well, it's a path that most probably won't need to take. There are way better ways I could teach you to do it, but my path happened to be a little bit different. So, you had mentioned a very heavily male industry, and I really truly think that I did not notice that I was in a male industry because I grew up with all brothers. So I'm one of 5. I have 4 brothers, and every time you look at the dinner table, it's all dudes. So it was no big deal. And then, I was brought up to Alaska on a sports scholarship. So I had a full ride scholarship for gymnastics and and then it was in stunt cheerleading because they needed to borrow us to do stunts on our off season. And that led to, all kinds of doors opening as I got my degree. And so my degree was in history and education. So I became a teacher. And at 20 years old, I was recruited. We weren't even 21 yet, but at 20 years old, we were recruited out to the bush. So the day after graduation from college, I ended up in the bush, which is exactly like Australia and Africa. There are no roads connecting anywhere. And it was a Yupik and a Nupiat Eskimo village. And I don't speak either one. And so anyway, day one, I realized, oh my goodness, am I fish out of water here? Because not only was I a teacher, but I was the only teacher and the principal because they have a state law in Alaska that you have to have at least 12 students in the school, and we had a whopping 17. so, so they didn't need another, they didn't need a principal. They just gave me that job too, and I was so not qualified. But I had a lot of enthusiasm, and the way that we would get to work was really intriguing. So that was going from, you were taking small boats up the rivers because we use the rivers like roads there, and then we were taking small planes everywhere else. And then that led for me to have the opportunity later on in life to switch out of teaching and go into becoming a bush pilot. And as I became a pilot and got to, train with some of the best in the world up there, that led to an Irish family that were 4th generation distillers that became dear friends of mine that had come to Alaska for a fishing trip. And so they asked, would I ever consider coming to Ireland and learning to distill? That's how all of that took place. So, yeah. And there was a lot in between, a lot of years in between and everything else of between college and actually becoming a distiller. And, started a family and everything else. So anyway, I'll let you go ahead and ask whatever you would like, but I know that's not typical and I could teach folks to do it so much better. But as I continued in the distilling world, I also didn't realize that it was we were seriously pioneering. Some of these states did not even have distilling allowed. And so it was still
Wow.
illegal. And for Alaska, the first year that you could become a distiller was 2010. And so I was the second oldest distillery in Alaska, and I missed being first by 10 days. So,
Oh,
'cause there was a
wow.
big race going on between myself and a gentleman in Anchorage. And all the mail flies into Anchorage first, and then it's dispersed. So I didn't get my license in time to get it notarized at the city hall. And so anyway, we've always had a nice rivalry between the two of us. We really are friends. And but then I became the first legal moonshiner in the state of Alaska, which is not ladylike at all. But moonshine is young baby bourbon. And so that opened up the doors to, our industry growing there. All of our grains originally came from Nevada because Alaska doesn't grow grain. So then we had to go ahead and barge those up on boats and then make all of our spirits. I was a cruise ship stop. So then everyone would come in and they say, "Ooh, delicious. Can you fly it back for us?" Or ship it back down. And we're like, "Holy Hannah, we just barely made it up here and now it's leaving." And so then the opportunity came to bring everything to Nevada. And I didn't realize I was pioneering here too. So everything was historically owned by, all rights were owned by the mafia, and that's historical truth. So it's a
Wow.
dicey, interesting history here because 2015 was the first year that you could be a distiller in Nevada. And I am still the first and only female distillery owner in Nevada. So there are others
Wow.
that are paired with their husbands, but yeah. So anyway,
Wow.
that's kind of a
That's amazing. That blows me away, Felicia. So you become a teacher because it's what you were inspired and you wanted to teach people, and life leads you to become a pilot, right? To learn how to pilot helicopters. And then not only that, you became a pioneer in the spirits in the state of Alaska. Yes, you were not the first, but you were the first one with the moonshine license or bourbon, right? And
yeah.
then you say, you know what? I'm just gonna go to Nevada and I'm gonna do the same thing, right? It's all of this breakthrough barriers. You did not see like what was stopping you. You just saw where you wanted to go. And I think that's super inspirational, right? Just you went
Yeah.
for it. Um, I love the fact that you also brought your family and how you explain like being raised with males doesn't let you put that block that hey, I'm a woman and I'm gonna have all of these limitations, right? And I think that we're blessed in this country with that kind of gift, let's call it that way, right?
Yeah.
We know it's different outside of the United States. Other cultures don't have that ability to allow women to grow for X or Y reason. I don't want to get into that
Sure.
conversation right
Sure.
now. But you go and you become a pioneer. But to get there, there was different journeys that you have to take to become a business owner. Tell me, how was that journey from becoming a talent on how to distill the spirit to now become the successful business owner you are today?
Sure. So I think a lot of the experience came from, being thrown into it. So hard knocks, I honestly. And my parents never put limits on me being a female, like that wasn't ever a conversation. I come from a ranching family. It takes everybody to get the job done. And so anyway, growing up, there were never any limitations on me. And then I was extremely lucky enough to marry a man that absolutely thought that was beautiful, that I didn't even have this concept in my mind that I couldn't do what everybody else could do. And then and we met in Alaska, and we he was a business major, and so he was business management, and then he went on to be one of the three owners of American Fast Freight, and I was teaching and doing my thing, and but learning so much from himself and from his family, and they took business very seriously. And so anyway, just different conversations around the dinner table and such. And Mike Jones, my husband, my late husband, he always made sure that I always was able to stay right up on track with everything that he was learning through business. And so even in college, we were the two nerds that totally would like geek out on Rich Dad Poor Dad. And those had just, I don't know when they came out, but we were exposed to them for the first time in college. And I just remember, you know, like everybody else was busy partying and having a great time. And we were like, you know what? Like, maybe we should, you know, think about getting a property. And we were already engaged. So we bought our first house right after we got married. And I mean, like, you know, I think it was maybe 3 days before we got married. And one of the gifts that we got for our wedding was his best friend decided to move in with us. That's not a gift. So so we ended up with Ivor and a dear, dear friend. But so anyway, then we were like, this is crazy. Like he was Mike's roommate before, and now he's our gift. And so anyway, we always were this couple that had people living with us. And we're like, what in the world? And so we had that house for 10 months, decided, you know what, we already fixed it up. And it was a little dinky house. I mean, when we look back at it now, you know, I would definitely say it looked like a tiny blue Smurf house. It was ugly, but it had a big yard, and so plenty of parking, and people could have fun there, and a little teeny tiny. And then we decided we're going to go ahead and flip that because there was this fourplex in town. And when I say town, that's a loose you know, term. It's really a village. And so they're tiny little places with hardly any population. And this is on the coast in Alaska. And so this is the Kenai Peninsula. And so anyway, we decided 10 months after being married, let's go ahead and flip that for that weird fourplex we keep driving by. And so we did. And it seriously had a tree growing up through the you know, the deck, and we had to chop that down. It was totally haunted house. We had one straggler tenant that was in there, and she decided, okay, she would stay on if we would make it nice. And so then all those people that wanted to live with us, you know, we brought them over there, and we're like, you're just going to live upstairs and pay rent. And so that was our first fourplex. And this worked so well with all of our college buddies that we ended up with, you know, rolling those profits and buying the next one, up to 5 fourplexes. And we never had single rentals. It was always fourplexes. So the good news for anyone that's going into real estate, if you don't know any better, you just jump in, and you know, we honest to God didn't know that it could be easier with a single or a duplex. We just had 4. And so that gave us a good idea of how to manage, you know, a budget and manage resources, like make contacts with people in town to be you know, who's going to be on our plumber list, who's going to be the electrician list, you know, like all these things. And that truly was the knowledge that I needed to then grow into a business later, because by, you know, and Mike was killing it. I mean, he was top 30 under 30 on that list twice, and for the nation. And so he absolutely was wheeling and dealing all over the place. And I was, you know, I was a stay-at-home mom with the boys, but not really stay at home. I would go ahead and take the boys with me to go look at properties. And because, you know, it's odd to, if a dad showed up with a bunch of kids, like they, you know, and you're trying to show a property, they'd be like, but nobody questions it when it's the mom, you know. And I was just looking properties over and seeing if they were going to fit the little checklist that we had. And it was really rudimentary, like honestly, the most rustic, hideous little list that you ever saw. But we did find some little gems. And then as life was going on, and by then we had 2 little boys, and then Mike passed away at 33. And so that totally changed my world. And, you know, then you have to really start thinking, you know, I mean, you lose your best friend and you lose your husband that day. And so then, yeah. And so then you start thinking, you know, am I going to go ahead and, you know, just curl up in a ball and cry for the rest of my life? Or do I want to show these boys who their dad married? You know, like, who was that girl? Is she still around? And so, yeah. So you have to dig deep and say, what are my talents? You know, what am I good at? And I realized at that point that I couldn't go back to teaching. That just wasn't going to make enough money for us. It's lovely and it's very honorable to be a good teacher. But in Alaska, things are a little expensive. Alaska, Hawaii, our company that Mike's family and ourselves owned was American Fast Freight. They do Puerto Rico, Guam, Virgin Islands, and I think I already said Hawaii, and Alaska. And so anyway, all these hard to get to places, and you're pioneering all the time with that. There's not, you know, back then there weren't freight lines that were traveling back and forth. We started a bunch of those to open up the market. And so if it was hard to get there, it had opportunity. And so that was kind of what I was thinking in my head. And then one of our very dear friends from college, I was best friends with the wife, and then Mike was roommates with the husband, and they had started a an aviation company out in the bush, Bethel. And everybody out there calls it Beth Hell. And it is. It has raging winds and it's always cold, and it's quite the place on the western coast of Alaska. And you couldn't get more remote. But they had invited the little boys and I to come on out. And at that time, my boys were 3 and 6. And so we hired a nanny. Our two families split the nanny. We knew the nanny because she had been the only babysitter that my boys had had when they were little, except for a couple of family friends, little girls that would, want to come over, babysit and such. And so anyway, the boys already, dearly loved Miss Crystal. And she was such a sport because she was in her 20s at that time and came out to this crazy village of, nothingness. And luckily, there weren't just the ratio of men to women in Alaska is 10 men to every lady. And out there, it was like 30 guys to every girl. So she was in heaven. So, yeah, so we helped Miss Crystal out. And and I got to then go ahead and start training for aviation. Well, the folks that you meet through aviation are from all over the world, and they're flying in to do a fishing trip or a hunting trip, or they're, doing sightseeing in Alaska. A lot of mountain climbers are coming in. And so anyway, through that, I thought that I would probably want to do that forever. And then you realize, oh, my life might be a little short. Like, it's a very dangerous industry to be in because our weather turns so quick, and you always have wildlife in your path when you're trying to land or take off, or whatever it might be. And it wasn't as conducive as probably needed for little boys, because oftentimes they were in the cockpit with all the different pilots and such. And so wonderful opportunity for us. And then here came the Shanahan family, and they were the ones that were 4th generation distillers out of Ireland. And so I got to study with them over in Ireland. Took, our whole family. So the boys and I moved over there, and then had one of my best friends come with her daughters, 3 little girls. Well, they were teenagers at that time. They wanted the Irish experience. And so they helped us get settled for the first month. And the girls would watch the little boys and play with them. And then I was learning to start in on distilling. And then after they went home, I had the opportunity to go to Bushmills, which is Northern Ireland, because that family vouched for me. So this was such a gift. So that was my formal international training. And that set me up for all these years later of being, getting the honor to go ahead and try out for and then make master distiller. So that's as high as you can climb in America. And there are 8 females. So there are 82 gentlemen in America that are master distillers, certified registered master distillers. And then there are 8 ladies, and I'm number 6, and 2 have come since me.
Wow.
So we're growing. We have a whole 8 of us in the nation. Yeah.
Progressing.
Yes, go girls.
Yes, right. So now that you mentioned that, for any ladies, I mean, that they're interested on getting into this industry, this is not something that is open out there to the public. Women doesn't sometimes consider this, right? What would be your advice?
I 1,000% would love for more ladies to get into the distilling industry. And if any of them, I'm right here in Reno, Nevada. So if any of them would ever like to come and train with me, I have graduated our first female. So yeah, and it's honestly, I have to say that when I'm training the males and females, the guys are awesome. They're good at it and they love it. But the girls are more exact. And they actually have a very huge passion for it too, because the truth is we're just extending the harvest. After the grains come in and after all of the fruits are harvested, traditionally folks used to go to the state fair. And so that was where you would have farmers markets and everybody had, like rides and have fun. And that was because the harvest was over for the year. The work was done, but not for distillers. And so that's the day that we're buying all of the grains and we have to get to work. And for the ladies, I've noticed that we grow up making recipes. And so we love to cook. And when it says a half cup, we mean a half cup. Like, so anyway, oftentimes, the guys will either be so engineer minded that they've got it down to, a fraction of a milliliter for liquids, and then a fraction of an ounce for, something dry. And then there is the group of guys that are like, close enough. And then girls, honestly, I've noticed that they really like to follow those recipes, and it's natural. And so they're turning through some of the courses quicker. So there's, and if you have a passion for it, honestly, we're it's like baking pies every day and putting them in a bottle. Or with the bourbon, you're making moonshine and getting it into a barrel, and just the aromas and the smell and this old history that is wrapped up with it, and a little bit of naughty from all of the bootleggers and moonshiners. It's just intriguing to me. It just is. And there will
Yes.
never be a country that our family travels to. And I was able to do this with the little boys. And I always said, if there ever came a date that, what I chose to do as a new career ever interfered with the boys, then I would stop doing it. And the truth is that that day has never come. I made sure that I bought a ranch for the first distillery. And so it was a 10-acre ranch that was the cruise ship stop. And the boys would, they thought they were very important. They would be showing all the other kids that came off of the cruise ship buses, all of our horses and cows and,
Aw.
pigs and the chickens. They try to chase the chickens. And so they were having petting zoo for themselves. The parents were in having a beverage. And then the grandparents loved to, so all of the little abuelas and such would love to go ahead and sit by the fireplaces that we had outside. And those had little, they looked like little mini, like tiny homes, but that was just to get in out of the weather if they wanted to. And inside those would each have a little bit of history of the distilling. So a little bit of equipment or whatever it was. So people loved coming out there, and that made it so that I knew where my boys were all the time. I never had to be separated from them. They came to work with me every day. We lived there. And so then I made sure that that was a priority always. And they knew all the farmers' dogs, but they were never around the alcohol end of things. And so it can be done. So any ladies that happen to be listening and you think, oh, but I have children, I couldn't do that. Yeah, you sure can. All you do is just make sure that they're not in where the distilling is going on. But once equipment shut down, teach them to go ahead and mop and sweep and, stack shelves and, they can weigh out grain, they can turn barrels. There's all kinds of things in our industry that children can, if they live there, that they could do before they're ever 21. And then they can graduate into everything else. But we all still work together. So yeah.
That's amazing. I love the fact how you prioritize your family. I think a lot of women get scared for that success can get in the way of their relationship with their children or their family. And you find that perfect balance. And I know there's many psychological studies that shows that when you give responsibilities and you integrate your children to what you do, not only help them build more confidence, but also they feel part of the family that they're contributing to and create better citizens. Let's call it that way.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do
So,
agree with that. I think that it's really important to, and some families don't have that ability to go ahead and work together. But they could if they wanted to put it together a little differently, because there are so many different industries that, if you all work together as a family. And I think that comes from traveling to other countries as well. You see it so prevalent. And then in Alaska, it's very common to go to like a coffee stand, and you're driving through to have your coffee, and somebody's kids pop up and they're like, can I get you a cup? And you're like, oh, you're a little salesman. And it's not unusual for families to go to work with whoever actually owns the business. And so I think because we have so many fishermen and we have, traditional industry components up there, that I think it then got drilled into my head. And then going to Ireland, they're very family oriented. And it was just a relief to think, okay, good, because they are the most important thing in my life. And as I've grown with the distillery and it's becoming nice and successful, like who else would you rather share the success with every day? The wins, and then family. There's nothing better than family when you're having the down times too, and they're like, we got this, because employees can be absolutely wonderful. And we do have a fantastic team. And I would say they're honorary family 100%. And I will always say team, not employees, because we are a team. It doesn't matter what job you're doing. It's extremely important. And there is no job I'm above either. And our team knows that. So if it's, I mean, the only thing we hire out now, because we think we're so spoiled, is we have the bathrooms cleaned by a company, because we all voted nobody likes that job. And there are like 7 bathrooms throughout all of the distillery stuff there. And so that's our only, thing that we've decided none of us want that one. But yeah, but there were so many years beforehand that our entire team just takes turns, and it's your turn to do the thing that's not fun. And then of course you get rewarded with all the cool stuff also. But yeah, so
that's amazing. I love how you have built your team around what is important for you, how you have embraced your journey, every challenge, and just make it part of your life. It just flows. It flows. It feels natural. Even when it's challenging, you have go through all of these journey to this day. And I think that a lot of people sometimes focus in this is the only thing I can do. I mean, you started with real estate, become an investor, then met these people that help you and inspire you to take a different path. You embrace it, you go and learn this, then you become a pioneer, and you are very strong in what you believe and what's important for you, and you're keeping that in front of you. And that's very, it's one of those things that a lot of people forget when you're doing business and growing in the way that you're doing, that they know what they value the most, the family, the kids, and the business will prosper as far as we are working as a team. Now I know that you're even expanding more. You're growing, and you're blown away with the new opportunities coming to your life. What's the future of High Mark Distillery? What's happening in this business with you?
Well, as you guys know, distilling has kind of craft distilling has become a definite piece of American heritage, and it goes back to 250 years. They just weren't legal, but it's always been a piece of extending the harvest and making a little something fun for folks to drink. And I come from a very traditional non-drinking family, and so it never it was never me coming into the industry thinking, "Ooh, I'll have all the bourbon I could ever possibly drink." It truly, to me, is an art form and a science. And then if you can blend those together and marry them perfectly, then you have something tasty for others to enjoy. And it's kind of like if you are making a really good recipe at home, and it's your grandma's recipe or it's your great uncle's recipe or whatever. And one of them is my great uncle's recipe, my great uncle Tim. And so anyway, making those is just like a little labor of love. And I get so much joy, and it's goofy. It's like I still have like a lemonade stand, like a kid, when you first get your first customer and you're like, oh, I sold one. Like when people like my spirits, when they come into the distillery, I still get excited. Like it just brings joy, because those are recipes that all have a history connected to them of our family traveling there and me meeting whoever that was so gracious to give us, a copy of their family's recipe. Like these are dearly held, beautiful, sweet things that were given to us. It was done with a pure heart. And so I always try to protect those, and every one of our spirits have a story with them. And I just think that I really would like to encourage folks to just keep their mind open, because you don't know where you're going to be called with your talents. Would I have ever in my wildest dreams thought that I would be a distiller? No, not once. It was never anything that my college, advisor said, what you'd be good at? Like it never came up. In fact, I don't even think it was an industry that was looked at, even probably 15 years ago. And now there are 20 years ago, maybe there were very few, and they were all, concentrated on the East Coast with the Bourbon Trail, so Tennessee and Kentucky area. And now all 50 states legally have distilleries. And after becoming a master distiller, that opened up a whole other realm of knowledge that I could tap into from some of the greats, because you're sitting at their table when you're doing different conferences. And there's a distillers board of advisors. And so I was then voted on to be, you're voted by your peers. And so I was voted to be one of those. And I think for the first year, and they have had other women, but for the first year I was serving, I was the only lady there. And it was just fine because everybody is so willing to share their knowledge. And it is a kind of a close knit, tight community, just like aviation is, just like military is. And so anyway, I think that it brought about a bunch of growth this last year, to get back to what you were asking. And you have to have a pioneering spirit, though. So you have to be able to go against the stream a tad, because it's not going to be a paved path for you. So if that makes you uncomfortable, then just keep practicing at it and you will become comfortable with the unknown. And so right now we are working very hard on growing the distillery again. It's always in growth phase, it seems like. But we have over 3,780 barrels down, and we continue to grow those each day, which means you need more space. So I am now just starting the initial capital raise for a 203 acre ranch. And so, that's my comfort zone. And it already has buildings up that can work very nicely for barrel houses, because we need more space for these barrels to age properly. It takes them years. And then for the first time ever, for the history of Nevada, I am starting a cooperage, which will be barrel making. And then here's the thing. Did you guys know that there has never once been a female cooper in the history of America? Like,
Oh my.
all right, I might as well do it. So if any other ladies would like to, and the door's wide open for gentlemen too, but if anybody ever wants to come and learn how to make barrels, it is an art form that was starting to die, and Nevada has never had it. And so we're going to be pairing with EDON, which is Economic Development District, to bring about a new industry for Nevada. And we have plenty of wood, and we have plenty of knowledge that has been passed down from others that we can tap into. And the beauty is, it used to be all traditional men because it was so heavy to make these big barrels and carrying them around. And now a lot of things are automated, and we have forklifts. So we girls can do it all. It's not a challenge. And I'm,
Less technology.
Yes. So it makes it wide open doors for all of us now. But yeah, so anyway, and then we will also be recycling all of our waste, which would be, all we're doing is taking out the little natural sugars out of the grain. So it would be corn and wheat and barley and rye. And then there's all of that, the rest of it. So 90% of it is beautiful organic grain that needs fed somewhere. And so we always traditionally at Highmark have baked all of the wheat into dog bones. And so that's a side stream, revenue that we do because it was waste, but now it's not. So the dogs get to enjoy it. And then for all of the corn, I just always gave it away to other ranchers. And we're like, what are we doing? Why don't we start a herd? And so we are going to have our first little herd of Wagyu cattle that will be raised, and they're natural grass fed, except for in the winter, sometimes, because we have winter here in Nevada, and they'll need a little bit of extra protein. We've got it. We have organic protein that's the finest of the finest that's grown right here in Nevada. And so we'll just feed them what would be considered our waste, and it's their treasure. So anyway, we'll do the whole circle of life there. And super exciting because it also happens to have this gorgeous colonial mansion that is on the property. And it's a 9-bedroom, 10 bath, but it actually could be a 12-bedroom. And so that would be a guest home for any of the barrel investors and such that would like to come and stay, or those that are traveling and want to taste the spirits and then come stay at a true working distillery. And we have barrel investors that actually don't care about drinking the bourbon at all, which is how dare they? but they're actually splitting the profits with us. So they're making 16% return on investment every year off of the bourbon barrels. And as you guys know, bourbon's not going anywhere. It's just becoming more popular internationally as well. So the Asian market got a taste for it. Now we've got customers in about 5 different countries. So yeah.
That's amazing. I already see, I mean, you're not only finding ways to reduce your waste and make an impact, right? In the environmental side, in helping other people continue and be successful, but also you're expanding across different countries, you're expanding your production. That blows my mind. And I don't know if a lot of investors know this, but that the spirit has become a very popular opportunity to
Yeah,
invest because it's always been sustainable through the many years, no matter what. Even during COVID, that spiked
it's
the
true.
sales. So I love to see different ways to invest. And you know this. I'm a geek when it comes to data, when it comes to finding different assets that can produce different returns. And I encourage you as an investor and even you, Felicia, to really start expanding into this industry because there's so much that can be done in this industry. As you're a pioneer, you're already expanding, but you're finding ways to contribute back to society. And one of the challenges I will give to you
Okay. I love your challenges because if we have time, I'll tell everybody about the challenge that you presented at one of our masterminds. And I absolutely, it sunk in and I went for it. Now my mind, like once you see, you can't unsee. Like you're a genius level with some of this stuff, honestly. But what's your challenge? I'll take it.
So here's this challenge. You are finding ways to give back and things that in the past was costing you money, but now you are contributing to other areas of the community. I encourage you to show by example and share what you are doing, these kind of programs with other distilleries, because I think they're missing this opportunity. And I mean, one of the things I love about investing with women, working with women, funding deals for women is the fact that we always find that little edge that creates a difference in the world. And that's what I call investing the right way, finding that little thing that makes a difference and that help us sustain this, right? We're not only about the bottom line, numbers are important, yes, they are. But when you can make something extra different and also reduces your cost. So there's no brainer. So challenge for you to see how your industry reacts to your different programs. And there's some resources I will connect you to that can also enhance those processes too. But anyway, just planting that seed.
Love it. Love a good challenge. I'm up for it. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And tell me, I know you take some challenges. Tell me about that. I would love to hear what was your experience. I think that people don't they underestimate what a mastermind can do, what an idea can do in your business.
That's the truth. So we were blessed with a mastermind in Austin, Texas, that was small and intimate. And I think that honestly, that day there might have only been like 6 of us there, and so or 8, I'm not sure. But anyway, there was this ranch that had 1,200 acres to it and water rights, and it also had so it was plenty large, and it also had plenty of room for the distillery to grow. And I had mentioned it just offhanded because when you dream, you might as well dream big, kind of thing. And that was a $15.5 million project at that property, and our distillery was not big enough to go ahead and take that on. But man, when something that beautiful and that large, it's the one that I had driven by 100,000 times and used to joke with my all of my friends and my boys, oh, there's my ranch, and then we just pass it. But I was like, in my mind, that's what it looked like to be absolutely totally independent on a property where we had plenty of room to grow. And then everybody jokes and they call me Jackie Daniels, so I'm like the girl version. And so anyway, then you need a big ranch. And I have always hospitality's always been first in my mind because I love entertaining and love having, family and friends over and everything else to share it with. And that's what I'm doing at the tasting room every day. So people from all over the world are coming in and I'm sharing it with them. This was going to be this thing that I could, let them just play all over the property and enjoy it and share it with them. And so at the mastermind, like honestly, I had said, but man, it already went into contract, and everyone went, like, oh, Jen, you did not. you said, well, what's stopping you? You said, why don't you go ahead and contact whoever just put it into contract and see if they want to go ahead and make about 3,000 or 3 million more dollars within 30 days, outbid what they just paid. So make it worth their time and then raise the capital to go ahead and get that, because this property was $15.5 million. And it came with $82.8 million worth of water rights. Water in Nevada, which is a desert state, is gold. It is liquid gold. Between that and bourbon, that's gold. And so anyway, then I was like, oh my gosh, do people do that? Like, it never occurred to me. In my mind, it was gone. And so then when I got back home to Reno here, I was just, playing around with it in my head, and a realtor randomly called me and said, this looks like you. And it's this gorgeous colonial mansion. I'm like, oh, well, because I would never picture that for myself. And so anyway, then I started looking into it, and I was like, oh, it's actually available and comes with a lot of original water rights, so much so that I could even go ahead and make this a water rights real estate play. So if I was able to go ahead and raise the capital for this, I could go ahead and sell off half the water rights, still have more than enough water for the property because it has 3 different water sources, and fund the entire thing and be debt free. So then I started digging more, only because Jen inspired this. So then I started digging more and realized not only are there water rights, but there are also some properties come with mineral rights that you could go ahead and transfer, meaning sell them to whatever company needed them. And you'll know this, but I didn't, transfer of use rights. What? So even though this property, I wasn't allowed to go ahead and do the entire distillery on it, it comes with the option of purchasing another 38 acres that still has the land use rights that I could transfer up to the area that I needed it, and then just do cows on the 38 acres there. So
Wow.
just mind blown that that's a thing. And now I'm like, oh, maybe I better keep this quiet. Like, maybe the coolest thing I've ever heard. And what if Highmark has now learned something new, where we're not just bourbon, we also have properties under us that happen to be, hosted or sponsored by Highmark, but they're actually, it's a land development. So, meaning land bank trust, where we would hold them. You don't want to overwhelm the community, but with development. But in years in the future, if they're needing some parcels, you've got them, and that was what you intended to do with them, and so it would already be not grandfathered in, but it's already permitted. So when you purchased, it was already zoned for that. So you've just blown my mind with every bit of this. And yeah, and I never saw Highmark, the distillery, going in that direction. But the truth is that there are so many distilleries that need storage for their barrels. They don't have, they might be located in a place that's not going to be feasible because they're in an old historic brick building or whatever it might be, and there's no place to grow around them. That makes it so that you have a ceiling. You don't want a ceiling. You want to be able to put down as many barrels as you can possibly get down for perpetuity. And then the saddest thing of all for master distillers, oftentimes, did you guys know when you go around to other distilleries and do a sipping on the bourbon trails and such, that oftentimes the master distiller is putting down spirits, so putting down bourbon that they will never taste. They won't be alive when it comes to age. And so you're always making it for the next generation as a gift, as a legacy. And so that always just was beautiful to me, but so sad. But luckily I started young enough that my stuff's going to be aged and we can all drink it. So yeah. So I encourage young folks to get into distilling too. So you see your end product. You don't want to be 90 years old when you start this stuff. So yeah, it's just intriguing to see where all this can go. And make sure that you don't say no. Go ahead and say yes to some weird stuff, because even if it doesn't work out, you gained a lot of knowledge and be like, oh, not doing that again. Like, yes. Or you learn and you say, oh, I can't believe I didn't do this all along. Yeah. So thank you, Jen. That was such a beautiful gift that you gave of saying, why would you think it's over?
It's never over. It's never somehow,
never
some way.
That's
There's
right.
always a play. There's
That
always a
is right.
play. And I'm glad that you took that little nugget and you make it in this wonderful thing, Felicia. You've been a pioneer. You knew exactly how to take the information and go and take action, right? Knowledge is not power without the action coming, supporting what you know already. And that blew my mind. So now for those people who want to connect with you, Felicia, and maybe they're interested in learning from you how to distill the spirits, what would be the best way for them to connect with you?
They can just go ahead and connect with me by email if they'd like, and that's Felicia, Felicia, at Highmark Distillery, all three words, all lowercase, HIGHMARK Distillery, .com, or they could go ahead and go on Facebook and leave a message, or Instagram and leave a message, and those are all Highmark Distillery.
Perfect.
So yeah, I'm not super hard to find, but yeah, but we need to get better at all of our social too. That's the truth. And so,
Yes.
and YouTubing for our company, because we've been so focused on getting all of the spirits down. So you had something to sell. And then now we have plenty of barrels rolling out daily that are ready to go to the stores and to the restaurants and everybody at their homes. And yeah, so now the game has to shift again. We have to grow in a different way and learn to be better at all of the social at our company. So
Awesome.
that's what we're investing in for 2025 is some training for our team for all of that. And they are now it is a younger team, and so they're very tech savvy, and their challenge for this year is that once a week they have to go ahead and produce either a reel or a little short and put that out on anything that they're interested in. I have a lead distiller that I hired, and he loves yeast and fermentation. There's going to be like a tiny percentage of people that think, oh man, I can't wait till he brings something else out. but he loves that. And I do know that there's a following of folks that are brewers and distillers, and they love learning the next little step from him. And and then the other guys, one of them likes to interview bartenders and restaurateurs and such, and ask, how are you, so the restaurateurs, how are you cooking with our spirits, because you sure can. And then how are you, what cocktail have you made up? And those are intriguing because it's somebody new each time. And so it just, every one of our team members has their different personality and different take on what the homework assignment was. And we're getting some really cool stuff back in and getting a kick out of it, because I never saw that coming from some of those shyer guys, and you're like, whoa, all right, he stepped up to the plate. This is cool. So
Inspired by the team. Inspired by the team.
Yeah.
I love it.
And then we all grow to the next level, which is so important. You don't want anybody left behind. Yeah.
Yes, that's awesome. So Felicia, what I will do is I will make sure that at the bottom in the description I post the different links so people know how to connect with you. And in the meantime, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for sharing with all of us your spark, your journey, your ideas, your challenges, and where you are heading. And I hope that this information get to the people, and people get to enjoy, and those who want to be in the spirits world. I mean, this is a great way to connect and a start. So thank you so much again, Felicia, for being with us
Oh, you're
today.
very welcome. Yeah. And thank you for, honestly, you bring sparkle to the world, but you also bring so much wisdom, and you're inspiring. And I don't say that about everyone, because a lot of people are like mayonnaise, they're like, meh, you're spicy mustard. So anyway, it was just so much fun to get to visit with you when we were in Austin, and today again. So I wish you all the best with all of your big projects that you're always doing, and look forward to visiting soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Felicia.
Oh, you're
Bye.
welcome. Bye.